A year earlier, Jacob and his wife Rebecca had decided to start fresh in a different town. Jacob's company had offered him a promotion, and the move south promised not only better pay but also a warmer, more comfortable climate. The downside, of course, was leaving behind their circle of friends, now separated by thousands of miles. Rebecca also had to restart her career, but she soon landed a decent office job in the city. It wasn't long before she began building new friendships, one of which was with Chloe, a longtime employee who practically knew the company inside out. At first, Chloe was reserved, but eventually she and Rebecca started spending time together outside the office. Rebecca grew to admire her. She was quirky, honest, and despite being 34 and single, still hopeful about finding love. Unfortunately, her shyness around men often backfired, making her say awkward things that scared potential partners away. Most of her so-called relationships had been little more than flings, leaving her disappointed. One night over dinner, Rebecca mentioned to Jacob that Chloe had been ditched again, and wanted to meet her at a cafe to talk. Jacob sighed, half joking. "You sure she didn't mean a bar?" Rebecca insisted it was just coffee, though she reminded him that the last time Chloe had shown up after a breakup, she had carried a bottle of wine and cried for hours. The following evening, Rebecca went to meet her friend, unaware that Chloe hadn't told her the whole truth. Chloe hadn't actually been dumped. She was just tired of being single, and had signed up for a local speed dating event. Nervous to go alone, she had lured Rebecca along under false pretenses. When Rebecca saw the setup, tables arranged in a circle with men rotating between them, she was stunned. "You dragged me to speed dating," she whispered. Chloe begged her not to be upset. "Please, I just couldn't do this by myself." Rebecca tried to refuse, pointing out that she was married, but the organizers didn't allow spectators. And since one woman had canceled at the last minute, they pressured her into filling the empty spot, so the event wouldn't be thrown off balance. Reluctantly, Rebecca sat at the table, telling herself she would just flash her wedding ring and politely decline any advances. As the rounds began, several men approached her, most losing interest the moment they noticed her ring. A few joked inappropriately about how being married might make her more fun, but for the most part she spent the evening awkwardly waiting for the timer to buzz. Meanwhile, she kept glancing at Chloe, who was stumbling through introductions with visible nerves. Finally, the last man of the night sat down across from Rebecca. He was tall, sharply dressed, and in his 40s, with a confident smile that immediately caught her off guard. Before she could say anything, he leaned in and said smoothly, "Don't worry, I noticed your ring. We're just talking, right? Nothing wrong with that." His name was Ethan. Unlike the others, he wasn't looking for a fling, at least that's what he claimed. He told her that his wife was fine with him attending, framing it as a networking opportunity for his business ventures. He had ideas about restaurants and other projects, and these events, he explained, gave him quick access to people from different walks of life. He was witty, charming, and magnetic, leaving Rebecca unsettled by how easily he had gotten past her guard. When the timer rang, Ethan slid a business card across the table. "Let's grab coffee tomorrow. I'd like your thoughts on one of my ideas." Then he stood and walked away, leaving Rebecca with a card she knew she should throw out but couldn't. That evening, Jacob casually asked how Chloe was doing. Rebecca gave him a vague answer, saying everything was fine, and left out any mention of speed dating or Ethan. She convinced herself it wasn't necessary. After all, she hadn't done anything wrong. Still, she couldn't stop thinking about that conversation, or the man who had sparked something she didn't want to admit. Over the next week, Rebecca grew distant. She spent more time with Chloe, wandering the city or stopping for coffee, and though Jacob noticed, he didn't press her. He just assumed Chloe needed extra support. That illusion shattered when Jacob spotted Chloe one afternoon, walking happily hand in hand with a man in the park. Clearly, she wasn't crying on Rebecca's shoulder anymore. That evening, Jacob asked, "So how's Chloe doing?" Rebecca sighed and said, "Same as always. She cried for hours today." The lie stunned him. He knew she was covering something up. From that moment, Jacob started watching more closely. A few days later, Rebecca said she was meeting Chloe again. Suspicious, Jacob left work early and waited near her office. He saw her walk straight past the cafe where she claimed to be headed, and get into a dark-colored car. The man inside greeted her with a kiss and handed her a bouquet of roses. Jacob's chest tightened with fury, but he forced himself to stay calm. He tailed them as they drove through town, eventually pulling up to a hotel. That was the breaking point. Jacob stormed up, yanked the car door open, and struck Rebecca across the face before landing a punch on Ethan, who stumbled backward, clutching his jaw. "You traitor!" Jacob roared at her. "Give me your keys. You're never stepping foot in my house again." Shaking, Rebecca handed over her keys, trying to stammer out an explanation, but he silenced her with a furious wave. His eyes flicked to Ethan's hand. He was married too. Without another word, Jacob turned and left. Back home, rage fueled him as he stuffed Rebecca's clothes into trash bags. In the middle of his rampage, a business card slipped from one of her pockets. Jacob picked it up and recognized Ethan's name. A quick search revealed the truth. Ethan wasn't some harmless businessman. And now Jacob had the weapon he needed. He contacted Ethan's wife and told her everything. She was blindsided, furious, and not about to let it slide. How she handled Ethan afterward, Jacob didn't care to know. But there was a twist of fate. Ethan's wife happened to be close friends with Rebecca's boss. Within days, Rebecca was dismissed from her job. Since she'd been paid off the books, she didn't even receive her final wages. Cut off from her marriage, her career, and even Chloe, who had happily moved in with her new boyfriend. Rebecca found herself utterly alone. No husband, no income, no best friend. Just the bitter weight of regret, knowing that a single night's choice had unraveled everything she once had.